Hello and welcome to the Cortright cast. I am Alex Cortright and I'm joined by my brother Jonathan Cortright, and today we're talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane because frankly this movie is a bit of an anomaly, I would say, because 10 Cloverfield Lane came about, what year did it come out?
2016.
2016? It feels like it was a lot longer ago.
No,
I guess 2016 was 5 years ago.
5 years.
I feel old.
March 2016, so almost exactly 5 years ago.
Well, the movie came out back in 2016, and it was posed as a sort of sequel to the original Cloverfield. Yet, it's nothing like Cloverfield. It was not born from a script that was made for Cloverfield itself, and it doesn't really fit into the genre of kind of spin-off movies, because most of the time when people make spin-offs or movies set in the same universe that aren't really that related or just have the name slapped onto them, they don't do well.
Yeah.
They don't do well at all. There are a few anomalies like Creed. I'm trying to think of others.
It's often out of a marketing decision to make it, to slap a name on it so that it makes some money, which ironically is exactly what this movie did.
Yeah.
It's just that they happen to slap it onto a really good movie.
Yeah. Which it's so uncommon that happens. It reminds me of the old Star Fox Adventures when it was like a dinosaur video game. That was they're like throw Star Fox in there, and it was like that's what Cloverfield actually feels like. It's good, but it's like where does the Cloverfield title come in?
What I'd say is like the worst part about the movie is actually where they rewrote it to be Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Which
but how do you?
We can talk about later.
But yeah. How do you classify that in regards to judging the success of a kind of spinoff film? Because they what they did was they tried to, after the success of 10 Cloverfield Lane, they tried to be like, this is a direct sequel. This is movie 2, and we're going to do movie 3. It's going to be a trilogy, because now they're calling it a trilogy. But at the time, it did not feel like it was like there was nothing direct sequel about it. So I feel like we're still talking about a spinoff. It was a spinoff movie.
Yeah. Well, J.J. Abrams' sort of idea behind it was to make sort of an anthology series of almost Twilight Zone-esque movies that were sort of picked up from scripts that weren't necessarily written to be Cloverfield, rewrite them to be Cloverfield, and have them be these sort of one-off anthologies. I think the Cloverfield Paradox just did so poorly.
Yeah, that movie came out, and I was kind of excited about it.
I was really excited because I didn't even watch it.
Yeah. It came out and I was excited, and then it got just utterly destroyed, like pretty universally disliked.
It had a really great marketing campaign, similar to 10 Cloverfield Lane, where they just dropped the Super Bowl trailer and were like, it's coming out tonight. Yeah. On, I think, Netflix.
Yeah, it was an exciting time.
And then 10 Cloverfield Lane had a great marketing campaign where they did the same thing. They dropped the Super Bowl trailer, and then it came out the next month. The trailer showed nothing. You just had this title of like, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Like, that's weird that the street name is also the name of the monster from the first movie, and this is also supposed to be in the same universe. Don't think about it too hard.
It's also just really strange that anyone ever thought like, oh, hey, that kind of weird like handheld monster movie that was kind of a cult success, kind of a like surprise hit, I would say. Yeah. Just like, who decided, and this should be a franchise in any, like, whether it's an anthology or not, like, the decision to take that property in the direction of a franchise was just strange to begin with. So the fact that 10 Cloverfield Lane was successful was just baffling and exciting, though. It was exciting too. So when the Cloverfield Paradox came about and just flopped, it's honestly actually sad, because even though I would not have gotten behind the idea from the outset of the original Cloverfield film to do all these things, after 10 Cloverfield Lane, I was like, this could work. Yeah. And I mean, we should have gotten more films after the third one, but I believe the lack of success on the third film probably we haven't heard anything else about that.
I think they should have tried, because I think the third one just didn't work as far as I can tell.
And it's hard. Anthologies are hard to hit good every time, because you're not bringing back the same characters. But that's where you're not keeping people hooked on the same story.
Given that you're not bringing back the characters from Cloverfield Paradox, I figured they might as well just make another one. That is an anthology film, not related to it. Like, it's not like, Cloverfield Paradox really ruined some series that we were setting up.
Yes.
I think they were kind of just like, I guess that didn't work.
It goes.
And also, I don't think people were like, where's the fourth Cloverfield movie?
Yeah. But so I guess the real question is, what is it? What was the secret sauce that made 10 Cloverfield Lane work? Because I mean, I can name like 10 other films that just flopped trying to do these spinoffs. I mean, spinoff TV shows don't do great. Most of the time, spinoff films don't do great. Yeah. I mean, some of them are successes. I know like the Creed spinoff of Rocky, you could really count that. I think those movies are good. They did the Hobbs and Shaw, like Fast and Furious. Yeah. And those don't do that great on a critical level, but I mean, I guess you could count them as successes. Yeah. I would not count them critically though as a success.
I mean, the new Planet of the Apes movies were great, which I mean, they are Planet of the Apes movies.
That was a new trilogy.
But they were also, the first one was also a remake of one that had already been made. So in that realm of remake spinoffs, those are the very successful anomalies.
I feel like that's an outlier. But on the whole, I think whenever I know when I see a spinoff movie is coming out, I just roll my eyes. I'm just like, what are we doing? No. I mean, even just with all the announcements or TV shows too. I mean, the new Game of Thrones spinoff series announcements and things like that, or The Walking Dead doing Fear the Walking Dead, or I think they talked about other ones too. It just never feels right to me. So to walk into 10 Cloverfield Lane and have it feel so good and so right was just strange.
I think it's because often they come from a sort of cynical marketing standpoint, whereas this one already had the script written to be a totally different movie, and sort of just got the name slapped on and the ending rewritten. Because the ending was originally a lot darker,
so like a lot more bleak. Do you think it's just luck that they lucked into such a good script?
Well, the script was on I can't remember what it's called, the like Hollywood. There's some list of scripts there. Like people are like, why has this not been made yet? Yeah. Like it's out.
The Cellar, right? Was what it was
called. The Cellar. I think it was called.
Do you know what the original ending was?
It was basically like she got out, and I think the world was like an apocalypse, and she was just stuck in this wasteland now. It was kind of a very like Twilight Zone, like downer ending.
Yeah.
And
we didn't change it that much then.
Yeah, well they did.
They made it a little more hopeful.
They rewrote it to where she kills the alien with a Molotov.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. She kills the alien with a Molotov, and then it basically implies that she's gonna drive off and help fight more aliens with more Molotovs, I guess.
It turned into more of a hopeful science fiction alien plot, which was really just kind of very loosely tying in Cloverfield. Like
honestly, not even really. Yeah. It's kind of bizarre how they wanted to pretend that it was
in the same world.
Yeah, they wanted to pretend it was a connection, because the original Cloverfield was like one monster. This one's like, I mean, she kills one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't like the ending to the movie, but the entire like hour and 40 that leads up to it is so tight and so well paced and so well acted.
I think the ending is very jarring coming out of the film. I don't dislike the ending, but it is jarring and does feel like it was something that was almost shot by an entirely different director, edited by an entirely different person, like just literally cut out and placed onto the end.
I wonder if they even filmed the original ending. I don't know if they redid it after it was shot, or if they rewrote it and then shot the movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember the order that came in. But it actually feels like they probably made the original ending and switched it. Just because of the way that it very much feels like the movie's going down a certain path, and then it's just like, and then really like over the top silly alien scene.
So when we're talking secret sauce that actually makes this odd spin-off sequel film work, I mean, is it really just how great John Goodman is? Like, did he carry that movie?
Partly, a little bit. I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead's.
I've loved her in everything she's been.
She's great, and she's.
I don't feel like she's been in enough. Or
she hasn't.
That I've seen.
But every movie that she's in, even if she's in a bad movie, like she was in Gemini Man, she was the best part of that movie. Even though her character wasn't great, wasn't well written,
the dynamic
she really sort of levels up whatever she's in.
And the script itself was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean, just
it had a really good foundation.
The pacing of the film was great. Yeah. But I do think that the secret sauce, the icing on the cake that made it such an enjoyable and gripping film was the dynamic between John Goodman's character and Marie's. But it was really that connection that they had, or not connection, but the tension that really kept you along for the ride. I mean, it definitely had a good foundation, but that was what sent it over the top for me. And I love seeing John Goodman in a really strong role. But
so
what's also strange though is that the director, John Trachtenberg,
Dan Trachtenberg.
I don't know why I thought John.
Yeah, very different names.
Can't believe I would throw away my friend like that. Yeah. See him all over the place. My point being, the director is, would you say, unknown for the most part?
No, it was his debut film. I think he had a short film,
relatively still unknown in that.
Yeah,
like, he hasn't done
a feature
else.
film since, as far as I know.
Yeah, he did an episode of The Boys, I think.
Yeah, episode of Black Mirror.
And yeah, episode of Black Mirror. So, but an episode of TV here and there. I mean, and clearly he did a good job. I mean, both shows are critically acclaimed and good. And this film was good. I think there's on his Wikipedia page, it says he's working on a Predator film. It's a to be announced type of date. So I have no idea where that is in the pipeline.
Yeah.
But point being, just relatively nothing to go off of.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the director.
The movie's extremely well directed.
That's
like,
what's just
like as much as John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead and their tension and chemistry really carry a lot of the movie. Those tense scenes don't work if it's not shot right, if it's not edited right, if there's not the right direction there. Yeah. The movie's very Hitchcock influenced, massively, especially the opening. And a lot of the tension scenes are like follow those directing rules down to a science.
Yeah.
And that's really where I think he was just operating off of a really strong foundation and really stripped down directing style. And the movie's just gripping from start to finish. Start to the last scene.
Yeah.
But
I don't dislike the last scene. I mean, it's still gripping.
No, but it is.
I think it's just jarring.
It's a significant drop
because they essentially wait till the very end of the movie to be like, oh, and by the way, this is sort of science fiction, Cloverfield-y. But the rest of it's just like on its own.
I don't know. It's just kind of the whole movie feels like grounded enough, and it has that. I
think that's what's jarring about it. It's grounded, and then it goes to outer space.
Well, her character has almost got that like John McClane in Die Hard-esque, where she's like clearly improving her way through situations, just trying her best. And they apply that to her fighting the alien, but it's also like this giant alien that's supposedly like terrorizing all these places. She just goes like, oh, well, let me throw a Molotov in its mouth, and now it's dead. Yeah. It's just like, okay, this one girl just gets out and like murders this thing.
Yeah.
It takes it from a grounded, very tense, stripped down thriller to a silly sci-fi movie in the span of 5 minutes. I mean, she literally just escaped John Goodman.
The tone just changes, and it's just entirely.
This complete shift. That being said,
she's being like trapped by this like old man, and then all of a sudden she's like, but also I can whoop alien butt.
Yeah, it's like
I just struggled to get out of this house.
It's not that movie couldn't have worked. It's just that's a totally different movie crammed into the last 5 to 10 minutes of a really grounded movie. Yeah, and I don't think the shift is pulled off very well. Yeah, but all the runtime leading up to it is like 10 out of 10 thriller for me.
Yeah.
That I will forgive that part of it. But that is where, when you talk about spinoffs working, it's like the part that doesn't work about the movie is that it's a spinoff.
Yeah. It's like, I do have to wonder.
But also, if it was a movie called The Cellar, I'm not sure I would have seen it.
Yeah.
Or at least gone to see it in theaters.
It's really hard because when it comes to whether or not that decision was a good one, it's like, on one hand, you're like, well, it got this really good script, the spotlight it needed to get more recognition, but also it kind of taints the original, the original concept, the original just heart of the film. I think the soul of the script has to be tainted a little bit by, I mean, I'm sure whoever wrote the script was probably obviously thrilled that their movie got made and they got that paycheck. But I feel like there has to be at least an element of it where it's like, that's not really what it meant. That's not really where we were going. Like, it has to be a little bit tainting.
Yeah. And also, just the end scene, the threat of the alien is not near as tense, not near as scary, not near as involving as the threat of John Goodman.
Yeah.
Like 2 minutes earlier when she's trying to escape him.
And I'm not going to lie. They could have just ended the movie with her walking out.
Yeah.
I would have
I think the movie could have ended with her getting out. Yeah. Like, because I think she comes out in like some suit just in case it's like contaminated out there. She could have just like taken it off and like, oh, it's good, and then just breathe a sigh of relief, cut to black.
We didn't need anything, and it would have been a good her getting out.
Right. It's like you're with her on the train. It has that like similar to Dunkirk, how we talked about that last week. It's got this like you're in her shoes. You're trying to survive. You're trying to get out.
Yeah.
She finally gets out. That's the goal of the movie. Not she finally gets out, and then also like kills this alien, and then
and now we're going nowhere else either.
Yeah. And also still. This is a Cloverfield spinoff, but the house that she's at happens to be on a street called Cloverfield. That part's dumb. When it pans up and the street sign says Cloverfield, I'm just like, oh my God.
It just makes no sense, but I'm kind of thankful they did it. Kind of unsure how to feel about it.
I love the movie. I just don't love the ending.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's interesting that the director did not go on to do, I guess, I mean, he could be climbing the ladder. He could be enjoying his success and just taking his time. But I'm surprised that he didn't get like any other big offers right after, you know,
Right.
or because I mean, to pull off that kind of film, that is got to be something that's sought after. I mean, to be able to direct a film like that. I mean, who knows? You never know what's going on set, the relationships, the producers, you know, with Abrams attached to it. There's no telling, you know, who had what types of influence and who was directly responsible. But I mean, you can point to the director in any circumstance, and usually they're going to have a large hand in what's coming across on screen. So I know I would love to see more movies by him.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I remember after the movie came out, and so that was his first movie. I was like, oh, cool. I'm gonna go see what he does next, and I'm still waiting.
5 years later, God, it still blows my mind that it's been 5 years since that movie came out. When did Cloverfield come out? The original?
Oh, like 2008. So it had been like 8 years since
8 years
when
and
that
they
movie
came out with another one pretty quickly. What was it? Was it 2019?
I think that was 2018.
2018?
Maybe 2019. It was pretty quick.
Yeah, it's just.
But also none of the crew was involved with that movie. Like it was a different.
I do think
writer,
you might would want to do that. I think if you were going to, which that would be hard to get a director to like sign on for an anthology.
Yeah.
But I feel like there should be at least one thread that lasts, whether that's the writer or the director. Like even if it was just a team of writers.
Well, in this case, it was just Abrams.
Yeah, I guess he is the thread, but
Abrams, I don't know. Abrams
is weird, an anomaly to me lately. Like I remember having a lot more faith in Abrams before he did Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know. If you look back at his career, he's always sort of coasted off of other people.
Ooh, is that a hot take?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I feel like he has always coasted off other people. I think he is talented in some ways. I think he's talented at seeing what people like about certain things and pulling them together. Like, you know, I wanna really like Super 8, but it is so very clearly a mesh of 3 different Steven Spielberg movies.
Yeah, you're right. I did like
it's
Super 8, though. I enjoyed it when I saw it.
But his movies are always flashy and fast, and you always have fun watching them. And then when they're over, you start to think back and go like, there really wasn't anything there, but it was flashy and fun, and there were lots of lens flares, and it looked cool.
You're right. But because I had a lot more faith.
They always they're like fast food. Like you eat it and you're like,
they feel a little more than fast food. I think that's what gets you about it, is the fact that
I think it looks like it's more than fast food, but in terms of what's there, it really isn't a whole lot more than a $1 cheeseburger. It's exactly what happened with The Force Awakens.
A little bit short.
I think they're really crowd pleasing.
They are. But before he did even The Force Awakens, not before the abomination that The Rise of Skywalker was, when he was announced to be doing The Force Awakens, I just remember being like, wow, the Star Wars franchise is in good hands, because from, you know, what he had done before that, I was just like, you know, coming off of Star Trek and stuff, I enjoyed what he did there. I was thinking like, this guy has a good direction and he makes strong movies. Because I thought the Star Trek films were strong that he was a part of. And even after The Force Awakens, if there were problems with the film, I didn't really feel like I pinned it on J.J. Abrams. But since then, I feel like as I've gotten more distance, as I've kind of looked more behind the curtain of the films that he was a part of, it does become more apparent that there was a lot less there than I thought.
Yeah,
but I would not quite go so far as to call them $1 cheeseburger movies.
No, but I think it's a decent comparison. I wouldn't say that's exactly what they are.
The feeling is there of
it's
realizing that you're not getting what you thought you were.
Yeah, it's like when I saw The Force Awakens, I was like, oh, that was so fun and so crowd pleasing and so like, honestly, the movie is just really harmless. And then a few days later, it was kind of like, I don't know. It's like it doesn't last. I don't feel like going back to his movies.
Yeah, but I think that's what's confusing.
They're not
is that
memorable.
His films feel like they're supposed to last.
Yeah,
he goes in like some weird.
But it feels like you go back to them and you realize that there really wasn't anything there.
He's
to begin
the one
with
the mystery box theory thing, right? Yeah. He poses himself as this person with like these great big ideas and almost Nolan-esque. Yeah. I think that's what it was at the time it was like Nolan, and then like Abrams was kind of on a rung below it in my mind of just like the types of film they made. And I was like, he does these big blockbusters. He has these kind of cool ideas. He likes to play with higher concepts and trippier stuff. And that did not work out. That,
you realize
that did
like
not,
there was something behind Nolan's concepts.
Yeah,
and
you
J.J.
realize that there
Abrams
was nothing
like,
behind
J.J. Abrams' concepts was just a giant question mark.
Yeah,
I don't really know
mystery
what that
box was there was literally nothing in the mystery box.
He's really great at marketing.
And he told us when he talked about the mystery box, he was like, I don't know what was in it. I mean, that was pretty much the theory of it was we are not going to talk about what's in it. We just want to talk about the box. Yeah. and I did not realize how seriously he took that.
Yeah. It's like he's really great at marketing. I think that's why he ends up being a better producer than he is director, because he knows exactly how to get audiences in seats.
Yeah. I think he's worth something, like, to be attached to a project. Like, I still respect his ability within the industry to get good things done.
But often his successes are coasting off of stuff that's already in place. Like The Force Awakens was very much coasting off of the entire underlying structure of A New Hope.
Yeah.
It was coasting off of the fan-pleasing moments of being able to show off the Millennium Falcon, being able to have Han Solo walk back in. Like, it was coasting off these moments, and in between, it's like, oh, just make sure the dialogue's quippy and fast and the camera's constantly spinning. And then it was like, okay, Super 8, same thing. Make sure the dialogue's quippy and fast and the camera's constantly spinning, and we'll have a few set pieces that last and keep people engaged. And then it's going to end, and people are going to realize there was a whole lot more to E.T. and Close Encounters than there was to Super 8.
Yeah.
But it's flashy and fun.
When it comes down to every single film that he's done is very if you just watch that film and you did not see what came before it or what inspired it, I think it'd be easier to also hail as really great. But, even going back to the Star Trek stuff, I mean, there was nothing of his own behind those either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Into Darkness, he did the same thing they did with Force Awakens. It's, for Star Trek fans, it was like, you're going to have this big moment where it's revealed that Benedict Cumberbatch is Khan, and that's going to mean nothing to the characters in the movie, but it's going to mean something to the audience member. It's like coasting off of these moments. And in between, it's like, yes, he's good at making it fast and light and fun.
Yeah.
But there isn't a whole lot under the surface.
I like his visual direction typically.
Yeah. And he has a good cinematographer that he pretty much always works with. But that's where I think he's a better producer than he is director. Yeah. And I do like having him attached to things.
Yeah. I think he's a good sense of pace, good sense of dialogue, pacing within the dialogue, visuals, blockbuster set pieces. It's a little bit vanilla. I do think, as he's gotten maybe into the bigger budgets and higher echelons of these blockbusters. I don't feel like it was like that as much earlier in his career, but especially to the point where he is now, I do feel like his style has become a little vanilla. It's very much just like, throw a lens flare on it. Make sure it feels all right and throw a lens flare on it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's his style is very much based around making it stylish rather than having elements in the scene propel the style. It's like, we're going to have a dialogue scene where the camera's just spinning around the characters. It's like, all right, why is it spinning around the characters? Because it looks a lot cooler than a shot reverse shot. And it's like, okay, sure, it's a little dizzying, and why is it going for 3 minutes? But okay, it's like that's his reasoning for style is not particularly deep. I still enjoy his movies generally, except for Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I like to pretend that movie literally never got made.
I think that movie is partly on him, but I think outside circumstances is largely why that movie became what it was.
All the debate within that movie and what it was, I still just like to pretend it never existed. I don't even want to think about why it was what it was. I just like to think that it never happened.
Yeah, I think he's good at making mediocre movies seem better than they are. If you don't linger on them too long.
Yeah.
As a director.
Did he do the third Star Trek movie too?
No.
So he did just two?
Yeah.
He didn't do one though, right?
No, he did one.
Okay. I thought he did at least two of them.
The first two.
Yeah.
He did the first two. I think he's good at making...
But those movies had that kind of feel too, where I really enjoyed them. I don't think they were the worst of what he had to offer. No. I think they were some of his stronger entries. But I did feel like they had that kind of feeling where it was like, oh, wait, there's actually, when you think about it, there wasn't a lot of substance there, but it was a really enjoyable ride.
Yeah. I honestly think when I think back to all of his movies, probably Super 8's the strongest. But
his movies are like, when I say like enjoy the ride, they are very theme parky.
Yeah, they're very much they're very much like roller coaster rides.
Yeah. Which is not
it's not a bad thing.
If that's what you're doing, he does it better than most people.
Yeah,
within the
that's where I think
industry.
He's good at making mediocre movies seem better than they are. Same thing with Mission Impossible 3. If you look at the story and script for that movie, it's incredibly It's an incredibly standard, mediocre action movie. But he makes it really flashy and fun to watch.
Yeah.
And that's kind of his thing. That's why I think he works better as a producer with sort of good marketing ideas and a good presence behind it, rather than him actually helming his own stuff. Because it seems like when he's just helming his own stuff, he very much pulls from whatever the source is.
Yeah.
And pulls almost too much.
So he just needs a really strong source.
Yeah.
Source script. Really strong source script, source story.
Like even on The Force Awakens, he was working with Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back, and somehow the best they could come up with was a direct rip of A New Hope. Yeah. I'm like, how does that?
That does surprise me that Lawrence Kasdan would let
that's because I think it was largely Abrams' script, and Kasdan kind of helped, because the dialogue is very distinctly Abrams in that movie.
Yeah, it's so hard to judge people when they get into such. I mean, there's blockbusters, and then there's Star Wars. Too. You can have like blockbuster studio involvement, but when it comes to Star Wars, I have trouble putting anything on one person other than Kathleen Kennedy.
Which probably is still inaccurate in those circumstances.
I think that the story has shown through the recent developments over the past few years that if there is one person you can pin anything on within, I think it's hard. It's hard to put it on anyone in any circumstances with these big studios and blockbuster films. But I do think that the only person you can really trace back to having had their hand in nothing but crap across the board since they've been involved, or not since they've been involved, because there were, back when Lucas was still with Star Wars, I would say that he had the control there. But ever since Lucas left, ever since the reboots, or since Disney took over, I think Kathleen Kennedy is the one thread that runs through every bad thing that Star Wars has had.
Which is interesting, because her name is attached to some of the best and most successful blockbusters just throughout the years in general.
I think it has to do
with... It's kind of a bizarre transformation.
I feel like it probably has something to do with just the career path and the shifting of roles that she's had. And it could also, people change. And I don't think it's as much of her not being able to produce decent films, and it's more based on just where she wants the films to go, not being in line with.
You think
what
it's more like she
like.
Just doesn't? Yeah, she's. I think with the new ones, they just got a whole bunch of people who didn't really understand what Star Wars fans want. That being said, like, I don't really care, because I don't think that movies should be made based on what fans want.
I would agree with that, but not to turn this into an entirely Star Wars related episode.
No. God, what was the subject?
When it comes to the things that she's been involved in, I think it really starts to show through on like the TV shows and her effect on the TV shows and the other IPs that they're working with within Star Wars, and her influence there. You start to see it kind of come through on, things like, and people were really excited when The Mandalorian did well because it had less. And then whenever she does have her hand in The Mandalorian, they get mad. Yep. And the decisions that she makes and the implications of who's responsible for different decisions or firings or things like that. It's, a lot of it does. I just think that she's the one thread that is true. And I may be wrong. She may not be entirely responsible for all of it. But I think if you were to find one thread, it's really hard to pin, any of the Star Wars problems on J.J. Abrams, even though he had 2 movies. And that's frequently the case with a blockbuster film, or especially big franchise film, where you have like, there are plenty of instances where a big director, a really great seeming director, came in and touched a large franchise IP, and it didn't even really feel like their film. Yeah. Or, you couldn't really pin the failures on them. So
Jon Favreau is another J.J. Abrams type person. Interestingly.
Yeah.
I think of them in the same conversation. I actually think Favreau is a stronger.
I think he has more heart behind his the ripping that he does.
Yeah. But they're similarly people that I think are very good in the producer seat. I think he is a stronger filmmaker than Abrams, though.
Yeah.
But they're kind of similar.
I would agree with that. But I think Jon Favreau is kind of having his time too. I mean, he's done a lot, but I feel like he's always kind of been like pushed aside. Like, I think people are like, yeah, that was a good movie they did. I really enjoyed that. And then they just kind of forget that he did it. It's something about, maybe it's just names, people remember them, or, certain things. But there's something about like Abrams or Nolan where you just remember the name. There's some directors where you're just like, that is a big director, even if they aren't like Tarantino level, people who really just made a massive mark. You just kind of know them as these big blockbuster directors. I mean, look at Michael Bay. Everyone knows Michael Bay's name, and there's not a great reason for that. So it's really James Cameron's another one where, I mean, you could argue that he does have more cachet within the industry, but some people's names just stick. And Jon Favreau has struggled up until I think getting a hold of anything Star Wars. He's struggled to like have a name that everyone just goes, oh yeah, I love him, or I would watch anything he does. Even though that's the case, I would give a chance to anything he worked on. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's just my own perception going through the years. But like whenever I would see his name on a film, I would think I'd recognize that. I wouldn't think, oh, that's Jon Favreau. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up everything for this episode. We are out of time, so we will talk to you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you're listening to this on, and drop your opinion in the comments below. We'll talk to you guys in the next episode.